Paddle to the Sea, Chapters 7, 8, and 9. Chapter 7, Paddle Meets a Friend. The saw ripped into the end of Paddle's log. The blur of teeth came nearer and nearer. Suddenly a hand snatched Paddle away. "By Joe!" yelled the lumberjack who saved him. "Look what come out of the bull chain." Pretty soon he would split like a fish. "Sir, my friend, tonight I'll take you to my little Henry." He laid the carving on the shelf. The great log moved forward and back, and on each forward trip the bandsaw ate through it. The wide slabs dropped away, slid on rollers to other saws, and came from them as boards. Men pushed the new lumber away on flat cars to unload outside the sawmill. The piles looked like rows of unpainted houses along the street. After work, the lumber baron looked at Paddle. They laughed at the way he had ridden the log into the sawmill. The French Canadian who had saved him read the message on the bottom of the canoe. Someone wanted the little figure to float to the sea. He would show it to his little boy and then toss it back to the river. But no, Henry would cry if he couldn't keep it. By Joe, best not tell him about it at all. On his way home in the twilight, the lumberjack stopped on a bridge. He carved more letters in the canoe. Now the sign read, "Please put me back in water. I am paddled to the sea from Nippon County, Canada." The Frenchman dropped the little canoe off the bridge. "Have a good voyage," he said as he watched the river current carry Paddle away into the night. So that's him tossing Paddle back in. Chapter 8, the largest lake in the world. Lake Superior. It is so big it could hold Rhode Island, Connecticut, and 3 more states the size of Massachusetts inside its outline. It is almost 1/4 mile deep. The largest lake in the world. For the next few days, Paddle, along with old logs, chips, and bits of board, drifted on the current of the river. Then the river widened into a bay with many islands. Paddle floated past them all until at last there was no land anywhere. Paddle was alone on Lake Superior, the largest lake in the world. Only the sky was left, and the sun, and the stars, and the water. Then slid under him in black valleys or lifted him in blue mountains. He rode over them in foam before they rolled on and away to the edge of the sky. But Paddle was not altogether alone on Lake Superior. One calm evening his canoe shot upward in the air, splashed down, only to be spanked again upward. The glassy eyes of a great fish gazed at him from below, then disappeared. It had struck at the shiny tin of the rudder, but Paddle was not food. Another evening a small warbler swooped down from above and sat on the canoe all night, tipping Paddle half over. Exhausted by its flight across the huge lake, the little bird had found a resting place just in time. At sunrise it flew away again on its journey. Fish swam under Paddle, gulls soared over him, ships slid across the horizon, leaving black smoke trails. Everything was going somewhere. Everything except Paddle. He seemed to be sitting in one place, rocking up and down. Yet all the time he had been traveling. Currents had carried him around the shores of the beaver pond. Now they carried him in Lake Superior in the same way. Paddle now drifted westward, would someday circle eastward again, guided by the shore currents. Steadily and surely they pushed him on towards the sea. So this shows where Paddle started, and he's going around this way, and then he'll come back around that way. Chapter 9, Paddle crosses 2 borders. One night, Paddle passed the dim shape of islands. Morning found him in wide Thunder Bay. Big ships came near, churning the water into green froth and tossing Paddle over and under in their waves. A bumpy line of buildings stretched like castles along the horizon. There were great they were grain elevators at Port Arthur and Fort William, filled with mountains of grain, which trains had brought from the plains of western Canada. The ships now passing paddle would carry the grain to other lake ports and other lands to be made into bread and buns and breakfast foods for millions of people. A breeze whipped out of the north, driving long waves before it. Driftwood followed the waves. The cedar stump came galloping up to Paddle and hooked him between the two limbs. Its roots stuck up in the air, making a sail which carried Paddle briskly on its way for days, until at last Paddle and the ferryboat were tossed onto a beach. They had crossed an international border through which there was nothing to show for it. They had left Canada and entered the United States. The cedar stump lodged in the sand, shaking Paddle free to ride up and down the beach in foaming surf. Along this beach was a mound of sand which kept the water of a marsh from running into Lake Superior. One long wave heaved Paddle over the thin barrier and into a lagoon. Tangled forest formed the marsh's other border. Lily pads lay on the surface, and Paddle's canoe landed on one of them. It was very quiet. The air smelled of mint and wintergreen, and pine needles. Paddle had come to rest after 2 months on restless waves. Paddle to the Seas, chapter 7, 8, and 9.